Now, if you've ever played Dark Souls or any number of the dozens of games spawned in its wake, you're probably quite familiar with the main trait that they all share in common: difficulty. Souls games and Souls likes are known fondly for the RPG elements we all love, crammed tight alongside mechanics and bosses that are at best leaving lasting memories, and at worst, probably cost you your sanity and even a couple of controllers. This is something many of us know going in, at least somewhat. And for those that aren't familiar, well, each game will swiftly get you up to speed with the need to get good. Yo, what's going on, everybody? Los Angeles Havoc here, aka Late Tato, the one and only High Priest of the congregation. Welcome back to Late Tato Clips, where we've got a little bit of everything. And today I wanted to take some time and weigh in on a conversation that's been surrounding Elden Ring's new Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. Even with so much praise from both players and video game outlets alike, some found that this DLC crossed a line that it should not have. For a simple enough review, I'll refer to some one-star audience reviews from Google on which Shadow of the Erdtree actually has a 3.5 star rating out of over 600 ratings. Small potatoes when you consider that the base game alone sold over 20 million copies worldwide in the first year. However, we're speaking to a specific issue that these games are often criticized for in one way or another. Going through some of these reviews, you notice a bit of a trend. The commentary of everything hits too hard, the bosses don't stagger, etc. And ultimately, it leads to the feeling of, this just isn't fun. Now, before I continue, I want to stress that these folks are entitled to their own opinion. Everyone experiences games differently, and what is fun for some can be aggravating and off-putting for others. Therefore, I'm not here to disagree with their ratings of Shadow of the Erdtree. Instead, I wanted to share my perspective on the discussion of whether or not these complaints indeed amount to a skill issue, as many often do when folks critique the difficulty. Now, I have played through the DLC myself and even did so on the New Game Plus setting. For those who do not know, New Game Plus is when you begin a brand new playthrough of the game. You retain any and all items, spells, levels, etc. that have been previously earned, while everything else resets. New Game Plus also increases the difficulty by default, giving all enemies and bosses more damage in their attacks, as well as more health. I had initially decided to start a new playthrough, hoping to be ready to take on the DLC, but I had about 90 plus hours in my initial playthrough and was already mid-game in New Game Plus. I honestly didn't feel motivated to do all of that grinding again, considering at the time I already didn't have a lot of time to play, and I was splitting my time between Elden Ring and the newly released Final Shape expansion for Destiny 2. All that said, the minute I stepped foot into the Land of Shadow, I realized that perhaps jumping in on New Game Plus was a bit ambitious.
Oh no, god damn. Yeah, I have a whole ass knife in my head, bro. Ask me how the DLC's going. Hey Lay, how's the DLC going? It's alright, it's not too bad.
Everything hit like a truck. Fortunately, I did too. My build at the time carried me for a good portion of the way through until I got to Commander Gaius and the Shadow Tree Avatar. Commander Gaius especially was a damage check for me in my run, and of course, Promised Consort Radahn made me question everything I believe in, especially with the insanity that is his second phase. It's no secret that Soulsborne DLCs pack a punch. However, players have always been able to benefit from sitting with an already overpowered in-game build and over-leveling it before entering the DLC. That is until Shadow of the Erdtree. Hidetaka Miyazaki, the president of Fromsoft, did several interviews and explained ahead of the release that Shadow of the Erdtree would have a leveling system that acted independently of any previous player progression. Miyazaki also explained that the difficulty of Shadow of the Erdtree would be similar to that of in-game level content in the base game and would scale up as players progress through the DLC. At release, we learned that this new leveling system came in the form of Shadow Tree fragments, which increase player damage dealt and damage negation, and Revered Spirit Ashes, which increase the damage done and negated by Summoned Spirits and Torrent. It makes sense that they would add a system like this, especially given the scope of Elden Ring and the power of player builds and available summons. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Mimic tier alone changed the game and even brings to mind another topic in the community that I plan to address in a video following this one, but I digress. I know there is an issue of when things hit hard and you're struggling, the game doesn't feel as fun. And yes, some of these fights are draining, even fully leveled both in stats and with Shadow Tree fragments and Revered Spirit Ashes. I do think though that this is an experience that will always vary from player to player. It is not something indicative of the developers seeking to punish skilled players. Fact is, skill is only going to take you so far in these games. The players that do speed runs, hitless runs, etc. all started in the same space, having to learn routes, boss attack patterns, and go through a countless amount of deaths to get to the level that they are at. I mean, let me solo her, one of the most well-known players in the game, died to Melania over 200 times before becoming the legend that we know them to be today in the community. Likewise, that is not something that the average player needs to aspire to in order to deem the game good or fun. For every boss that feels impossible, like the second phase of Promised Consort Radon, because God, there are fights like Mesmer the Impalers and Midras that are just incredible and smooth. Divine Beast Dancing Lion sets the tone out the gate as the first boss you may run into during the DLC. It's not easy, but it also doesn't make you slam your head against the wall either. End of the day, is it too hard? Personally, I don't think so. I believe your experience is your experience, good, bad, or indifferent. As I said earlier, I'm not here to tell people they are wrong for not enjoying Shadow of the Erdtree. I do advise that going in, do not expect your base game Elden Ring build to carry you. Expect to have to respec and explore for some new weapons and spells to add to your arsenal. There's tons of guides now as well, showing where you can find all the Shadow Tree fragments and Revered Spirit Ashes, and many can be found while just exploring the Land of Shadow. It's worth gathering as many of them as you can early on because it can make all the difference. Brute force, just as with skill, will only get you so far. Be patient and relentless, and above all else, Tarnished, prepare to die.
Mother, wouldst thou truly lordship sanction in one so bereft of light?
Now, if you've enjoyed this video or found it helpful in any way, please do me a solid and give it a thumbs up. It might seem like a little bit, but it does go a long way in terms of helping the channel grow, and I just really appreciate it. If you want to see more content like this, do be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you won't miss any new videos. Once again, my name is Lost Angel of Havoc. Thank you for watching Late Tato Clips. We will see you next time, friends. Same late time, same late channel.